We are continuing in Siman Kuf Chaf Ches. We are continuing in learning the laws of Nesias Kapayim, of raising the hands to offer the priestly blessing. And when we last left our heroes, we were discussing which groups of people are not down for the priestly blessing. They may not do so. And now we're going to talk about other people who also can't. And we're almost done. We're almost done with the Siman. We've made so much progress. I've been wonderful sitting here learning these halachas with you. They're very interesting. Hope you find them interesting too. And as we continue working our way through the laws of morning prayers. Now, after we're on halacha number 43 in 128:43. So we've established that an avel may what's it called? Should not be there. We're going to learn about this now. Should not be there for Nesias Kapayim. We'll talk about this more in the Mishnah. The Mechaber himself says that after the 7 days of Avelis, so somebody lost somebody, right? So their close relative passed away. Their sister, their brother, their father, their mother, one of their children. Lo aleinu. They sit Shiva, and they're a Kohen. After the Avelis is done, they can go back to participating in the Berachas Kohanim. In the middle of those days, they should leave the shul when they call up the Kohanim. So, Kohanim, right? They should leave right afterwards saying. Some people answer, some people hold, the Ramah adds, some people say that during the entire 12 months, for their father and for their mother, they should not engage in the Nesias Kapayim, and that is the minhag of these countries. So the Mishnah explains the Chaber in the following way: leave shul. What's meant to leave shul? Because me'ikar adin, the rule is that a person who's in mourning may still participate in Berachas Kohanim because they are obligated in all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Okay. However, we have a minhag not to do that. Okay, we have a minhag not to do Nesias Kapayim, because you need to be happy, and it's good to be in a positive frame of mind when reciting Berachas Kohanim. Okay, so therefore you should be in sound mind. Why? Because that a person who's of a good heart should be the one giving the blessing. Okay. So therefore, if you're in Avelis, right, you should not be a mourner who's giving a blessing. And that is what we're talking about in this case. So don't go up, whether it's during the week or it's during Shabbos. Now, if there's only the Avel, the minhag is so strong, he still shouldn't go up. Okay? However, if he didn't leave and they call up the Kohanim, whether it's Shabbos or Yom Tov, whether there's another Kohen, there's another Kohen, then he needs to go up, because otherwise he's violating a commandment. Okay, so the Ramah disagrees and says no, you wait all 12 months. Okay, and that's even on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Okay, because you're not considered sufficiently happy, because you're still not allowed to attend weddings and other such things. Okay. And so, too, that someone who buries their parent during Yom Tov, meaning it's like during Chol HaMoed, even though they don't have a Avelis, right, because you can't do that because you're within the holiday, nonetheless, they should not be participating in any act of joy, which is going to include the Nesias Kapayim. Why? Because a person who has lost somebody that day, that person is known as an onain, even on Yom Tov itself, should perform every single mitzvah. But they're going to be precluded from Nesias Kapayim because they don't really have that same sense of simcha. Now, the same rule will apply here, that if you were there and you didn't leave and they called you up and you didn't leave the room, then you have to go up and say the blessing, because that's a mitzvah. Okay, now we said the Ramah includes father and mother, but this includes anybody for whom you are having a Avelis for at least 30 days, okay, because you have to mourn for them. And if there is a second Kohen, okay, So at that in that situation, so if there's okay, if there are only two kohanim without him, so you only have one kohen by himself, then within the 12 months there's leniency on that. Why? I don't know. He just seems to say there is. I actually I didn't recall that there was a leniency on that. Let me see here. Let me see here if there's a little explanation for that. I didn't realize that. I think there's an explanation for it. Okay. Okay. So no, the only thing is I have to go up before it would say. I would have to look. I'm curious. Actually, I don't remember this Mishnah Berurah, so I'm a little surprised by it. But that's the halacha. Okay, that you can do within 12 months. Okay, moving right along. Law number 44. Okay, Kohen. If you know he's a single Kohen, right, he's not married, he can still go ahead and engage in Berurah Kohanim. Now, the Ramah adds to those who say that he should not, because one who is unmarried does not experience true joy. And a person who is saying the blessings should experience true joy. And our custom is that those who do Nesias Kapayim, even though they're not married, that's fine. And nonetheless, that if you don't want to, we don't stop you. You just have to leave the shul at the time when they call you. So you get to leave during Ritzeh. Okay? Or leave when they call you out to do the hand washing. Our custom in all of these lands is that we don't do Nesias Kapayim except on Yom Tov. Why? Because that's when we are really happy, is on Yom Tov itself. And that's when we feel like we can properly bless people. But every other day, even on Shabbos, every other regular Shabbos and all the other things, we're so busy worried about how we're going to care for ourselves and taking care of ourselves, and that we're not working, and everyone is worried about that. And we only do Nesias Kapayim to feel us musaf on Yom Tov. Okay? And that is because people are going to go after that and have the best part of their day. And every Shacharis and Musaf, where we don't do the priestly blessing, you're going to say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avosenu, which we mentioned at the end of Siman Kuf Chav Zayin when you don't have a Kohen. And on Yom Kippur, you do Nesias Kapayim like you do on Yom Tov, meaning during Musaf. Okay, and there's some places that do it also during Be'ilah, and some places do it even during Shacharis. Okay, so some interesting rules we learn about Ashkenazi custom for Nesias Kapayim. So going back to the married guy, the Mishnah Berurah explains that if he's not married, if he's married and his wife isn't with him, that's still okay, because it's not her being there or not. Okay, so our custom is that he shouldn't. And that's even there's no other Kohen. I mean, we'd rather just skip the bracha altogether if he's not married. That's what this custom is. Okay? But we're really only strict, the Mishnah Berurah explains, by Avelis, because you're really experiencing pain over there. But in this case, it's kind of like saying you're just not totally fulfilled. But nonetheless, you're not being enveloped in difficulties. Okay? And then we said also the Shulchan Aruch you should leave during Ritzeh. And the Mishnah Berurah echoes that. Okay? And we've said that already numerous times in this section. So at the time of Berurah Kohanim, you shouldn't also be in the shul, because I want people to think, like we said in Halacha Daled, that people think that you're a bad Kohen, that you're not a good kosher Kohen. So now let's talk about the Ramah saying that the custom in the Ashkenazi lands is not to do it. But in Eretz Yisrael and in everywhere in Egypt, the custom is to do it every single day. And the poskim say, that's great. Also, the minhag amongst the Sephardim is to recite it anywhere that they live. Okay, so it's not just predicated on living in Eretz Yisrael or living in Egypt. But we do it in Ashkenazi communities only on Yom Tov. And that's Yom Tov, whether it's a weekday Yom Tov or a Shabbos Yom Tov. Now, some people don't want to do Nesias Kapayim on Yom Tov when it falls on Shabbos. but that's not the best. That's not the correct minhag. Okay. And many poskim say that that's the truth. The custom is that the Kohanim go to the mikvah on Erev Yom Tov because they know they're going to do Nesias Kapayim the next day. And without that, a person should always use the mikvah every Erev Shabbos and every Erev Yom Tov. And nonetheless, it's not a problem, but some people are more particular about it right before Yom Tov. Okay, and we say the reason why you aren't doing it is because you aren't really experiencing regular bouts of joy. On Yom Kippur, we do it because there is the joy of being forgiven. Okay, so it's not like you don't know you're going to be forgiven. We're pretty sure you're going to be forgiven. It's all good stuff. But the reason why people are sad is because one of the things we have here is bitul malachtam. They aren't working. Okay, so this is really kind of silly. So it's not to say that the holy Jewish people are having a problem with keeping Shabbos because they're not working. Okay, and especially not working on Shabbos. The statement is meant to imply the following. Because they aren't working is also why they're not doing the Siyas Kapayim on every other day. So meaning it takes too long and it's going to keep them from working and they're not going to focus on the blessing because they're like, I gotta go to work, I gotta go to work. That's what it's referring to. Okay? So that's why we don't do it, and that kind of extends itself in the Shabbos Yom Tov, even though we're not worried so much about having to get to work. Okay, it's just that feeling that regular anxiety from the week carries over into Shabbos. Halacha 44. Okay. These are the words. So we've talked about the little fun movements the Kohanim make. So these are the words where the Kohanim are going to do some of the turning. Okay? So in the blessing. So the Kohanim turn at the following words. So they turn to the south. Okay? So remember, your back is to the east, you're facing west. So to the south is you're going to turn to your right. Okay? And they're going to go to the right, to the left. They're going to say Yivarechecha, and then V'yishmerecha. Also on Elecha V'yichuneka, Elecha Lecha Shalom. Okay, so those are the times when they go whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, like a windshield wiper. Okay, now our custom is that we sing a really long tune for these words, because in every single one of them, those are also the ends of each blessing. Okay? And then our custom is to recite the verse Ribon Ha'olamim. And those are the things that we mentioned back in Siman Kuflamed. Okay? That when you lengthen the tune, it's for saying these words at the end of these verses. Okay? And you're saying something like the Hatavas Chalom and all the other things, or these other verses, after V'yishmerecha V'chuneka Yasevecha Shalom. However, no one announces to say Ribon Kol Amim. You just should know that. The Ramah also adds it's prohibited to ask the Kohen to do work for you. This even nowadays, because asking to work for you is like taking advantage of holy things, and if the Kohen forgives you for it, then it's okay. Okay, this is the last halacha. So we say you swing from left to right and right to left. So the reason why we do that big swing, we go. Your back is to the Aron, okay, and you're gonna go whoa like that, right, and then Yichuneka Shalom, okay. So that way, what we're trying to do is spray you with blessing, okay? That should spread out over you, okay? And then the Ramah points out that we lengthen the tune. The Eliyahu Rabbah comments on this, and he quotes that according to a later authority, the Beis Yaakov, the custom is actually to say Vayishmar below Chaf at the end of it, okay? But it's not V'yishmerecha, it's Vayisham. It's V'yishmer and then no Cha at the end. and then the ch comes afterwards. So that means you kind of like really drag out the word. Okay. And vichuneka, you do the same thing. Okay, that's actually bad. So don't drag out the word where you can't actually hear the last syllable of it. And the only time we really drag it out is when we say shalom, because it's not, you're not interrupting the middle of the word itself. Okay, and so therefore the people who are leading services should be careful not to break up the word. Okay, and then the last thing that we're saying is one second. What is the last one over here? Right. So then every single one of these words is the last word of the verse. That's why the Mechaber says that you can do a long nigun over here. And what it's trying to say is that even though there's 3 blessings being said, then those are considered the Berurah Kohanim. Those are the ones that are considered Berurah Kohanim. Nonetheless, every single bracha is considered standalone. And there's only 2 blessings, right? Yivarecha Hashem, that's the first blessing. V'yishmerecha is the second one. Yair, right? That he should shine light on you, right? Elecha bichudeka is another blessing. Okay. That Hashem looks favorably towards you. Yisrael Hashem panav elecha. Okay. His first one, Vayisem Shalom, is the second one. So really, are all considered separate ones. So really, it's 3 that's really 6. And the Magen Avraham says the reason why you do that is because they're meant to be said directly facing the people themselves. Okay, and so we're talking about splitting up the words, that singing the words, you shouldn't break them up. So when you are extending the actual tune itself, and you're trying to finish off that last sound of the last letter, that's what we're having a problem with. But if you're saying the whole word and it's getting a tune applied to it, then no one should be saying anything and you're just listening to it. So don't say that Ribbon Hol and don't say all this. It's only that tune itself, the quiet tune, but not while he's actually saying the word. Okay, and take a look back at Halacha Chavav where we say that that's the case. And the person should announce the Ribbon, meaning the person who's announcing it is probably the Shliach Tzibur. And he's busy davening. Obviously, he shouldn't say it. Okay, because that's making a break in the middle of your prayers. And even if he's not the one who says it, okay, anybody announcing it should also not break up his own prayers to make a statement of reciting Ribbon Kol Amim. Okay, because that's part of the problem. Okay, and the tshuva of there's a tshuva of Maram Lublin that there are that we have this extra prayer that we say before Ritzei called the Sei Arev. If you don't have Berachas Kohanim, you also don't have this blessing of Sei Arev. Okay. Okay. And let's see over here. Okay, and we are finished. We are finished. How do you like that? Oh, let me double check over here one something. Anything interesting? We still have a couple of minutes left. So here we are finishing up the CS Kapayim. And we are very fortunate to finish up this first Siman. We have learned so much here. Thank you very much for joining us. And I look forward to learning more with you next time. Next time we're going to talk about which prayers get Nesias Kapayim. It's very short. So, there's a lot to do. There's not a lot to do for the next one. So, it's interesting stuff to continue learning Nesias Kapayim. Thank you very much for joining us in Kuf Chaf Ches, and we will join us next week in Kuf Chaf Tes. Okay? So, thank you for joining us. Take care. Oh, wait. Did I miss one over here? Oh, I did. Oh, well, we say that you cannot ask a Kohen to do stuff. Why? Because he shows sanctify a Kohen, because he brings the bread of Hashem, and so therefore that you can't do that. So that's also this is prohibited from marrying a divorced woman, and also from helping with the people who passed away. You also can't ask him to do stuff. Okay, and we were saying that also about having him forget or forgive the asking him to do stuff. So if he forgives you for asking him to do stuff, he's allowed to ask for that. Okay, so meaning like he could say, all right, don't worry about it, give me the first aliyah, or don't give him the first piece of food. Okay, or other ways in which we would normally give them all types of honor. Okay, those are because they're all considered benefits, and therefore he could forgive the benefit, and he allows somebody else to go ahead and go and use it instead. Okay. However, you are not permitted to give permission to ask him like move furniture and other such as that, unless you have some type of reason why you need to do it. Okay, such as that's how he's getting paid, or if it's a free thing, because he has something that you need. Okay, and it's still nonetheless preferable not to ask a Kohen to do something on your behalf. That's labor. Okay, so that's also as well. Okay, and also they say also to use somewhat not appropriate songs for Nesiyas Kapayim is also inappropriate. So thank you for joining us. I don't know why I missed this. This happens. We'll pick up with 129 next time when we do Nesiyas Kapayim, and we will carry right along in learning all these laws. Thank you for coming.